You should be grateful someone like me even stepped into this place.
Everyone in the restaurant stopped eating. A young woman dressed in designer clothes had just thrown a glass of water onto a waiter. "You should be grateful someone like me even stepped into this place," she said loudly. The waiter stood frozen, soaked from head to toe as dozens of customers watched in silence. No one knew the elegant man who had just walked through the entrance was watching everything. And in less than 5 minutes, the billionaire she called Dad would teach her a lesson she would never forget. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. 24-year-old Sophia Kingston had never heard the word no. She was the only daughter of billionaire businessman Richard Kingston, founder of Kingston Global Holdings, one of America's largest logistics companies. She grew up surrounded by luxury, private schools, designer clothing, luxury vacations, a chauffeur, a penthouse overlooking Manhattan. Every birthday felt like a celebrity event. Everyone admired her. Or at least, that's what she believed. Richard had built his empire from nothing. As a teenager, he had cleaned hotel rooms, washed dishes, and delivered groceries before eventually creating his own company. But Sophia had never experienced any of that. To her, wealth wasn't something earned. It was simply life. Over time, she developed a dangerous habit. She judged people by their jobs. To her, waiters, janitors, drivers, and cleaners were invisible. If they worked harder, she often said, they wouldn't have these jobs. Her father had corrected her many times. Respect isn't earned by wealth, Richard would tell her. It's shown by character. Sophia would nod politely. But she never truly listened. Friday evening. Sophia arrived at an upscale restaurant with 3 wealthy friends. The restaurant buzzed with conversation. Families celebrated birthdays. Couples enjoyed dinner. Business executives discussed million-dollar deals. Their waiter was Daniel Brooks, a 28-year-old husband and father of 1 little girl. Daniel worked double shifts. During the day he attended college to finish his business degree. At night he served tables. He smiled warmly. "Good evening, ladies. My name is Daniel. I'll be taking care of you tonight." Sophia barely looked up. "Water." Daniel smiled. "Certainly." Throughout dinner, she criticized everything. "The water isn't cold enough. My steak isn't perfect. These napkins feel cheap." Each complaint came with a sarcastic remark. Daniel apologized every single time. He remained calm. His co-workers admired him for that. No matter how difficult customers became, Daniel never lost his composure. When dessert arrived, Daniel accidentally brushed Sophia's designer handbag while placing the plates on the table. It barely moved. But Sophia exploded. "Are you serious?" The restaurant became silent. "You people can't do anything right." Daniel apologized immediately. "I'm very sorry, ma'am." She stood. "Sorry doesn't replace a $10,000 handbag." Daniel calmly replied. "I truly apologize. I'll be happy to have the manager inspect it." Sophia laughed. "Inspect it? You couldn't afford the zipper." Several customers looked uncomfortable. An elderly woman shook her head. A young child whispered, "Mommy, why is she yelling?" Sophia grabbed her glass and poured the water directly over Daniel. Gasps echoed throughout the dining room. Daniel closed his eyes. Water dripped from his uniform onto the polished floor. No one spoke. A deep voice broke the silence. "Is this how I raised my daughter?" Sophia froze. She slowly turned around. Standing near the entrance was Richard Kingston. His security team remained several feet behind him. Richard wasn't angry. He looked disappointed. That hurt far more. "Dad." He walked slowly toward the table. Every customer watched. Sophia forced a smile. "Dad, he ruined my bag." Richard looked at Daniel. Then at the soaked uniform. Then at the water on the floor. He asked only one question. Did he apologize? Daniel answered first. Yes, sir. I did. Richard nodded. Then he looked at Sophia. And what exactly did your handbag lose? She hesitated. Nothing. So. He paused. You humiliated another human being because nothing happened. Silence. Richard pulled out a chair. He sat down. Then he surprised everyone. He asked Daniel. Would you please join us for a moment? Daniel looked confused. The restaurant manager nodded. Richard continued. I'd like everyone here to hear something. The restaurant became completely silent. Richard looked at his daughter. When I was 17, I washed dishes. When I was 19, I cleaned hotel bathrooms. When I was 22, I delivered food. He smiled gently. If someone had treated me the way you treated this young man, I might never have believed I could become anything more. Sophia lowered her eyes. Richard continued. The people who serve us deserve gratitude, not humiliation. He turned toward Daniel. Thank you for doing your job with patience and dignity. Daniel quietly replied. Thank you, sir. Richard looked around the restaurant. Most people know me as a billionaire. But very few know the people who helped me become one. He pointed toward the kitchen. The first investor in my business was a waiter. He pointed toward the cleaning staff. My first office assistant cleaned buildings at night. He smiled. My first delivery driver later became one of my vice presidents. The customers listened carefully. Richard looked back at Sophia. The title someone has today doesn't determine who they may become tomorrow. Sophia's confidence disappeared. For the first time, she saw Daniel not as a waiter, but as a father, a husband, a person. Her eyes filled with tears. She stood, walked toward Daniel, and quietly said, I'm sorry. Daniel smiled kindly. I accept your apology. She looked around the restaurant. Then did something no one expected. She apologized to everyone. I'm sorry for creating this scene. I forgot something very important. Respect. Several customers applauded. Richard wasn't finished. He asked Daniel. You mentioned you're studying. Yes, sir. What degree? Business administration. Richard smiled. Excellent. He reached into his pocket. Not for money, but for a business card. I'd like you to visit my office Monday morning. Daniel looked surprised. I don't understand. I'd like to offer you an internship in our management trainee program. Daniel couldn't speak. Richard added. Not because you were mistreated, but because throughout this entire evening, you showed the kind of professionalism every company needs. The restaurant erupted into applause. Over the following months, Sophia began volunteering every weekend. She visited shelters, community kitchens, children's hospitals. She listened more, talked less. She thanked every server who brought her food, every janitor who cleaned a hallway, every security guard who opened a door. Not because her father told her to, because she finally understood. Respect costs nothing. Yet it can change someone's entire day. 1 year later, Daniel graduated from college. He accepted a management position at Kingston Global Holdings. On his first day, Sophia greeted him with a warm smile. Welcome to the team. Daniel smiled back. Thank you. Richard watched quietly from his office window. His company had gained another great employee. But more importantly, his daughter had become someone money could never create. Someone defined not by wealth, but by kindness. Because in the end, the richest people are not those with the biggest bank accounts. They're the ones who make every person they meet feel valued. And that is a fortune no money can ever buy.